Begin today the Gemara at the top of Daf Samach Beis Amud Aleph, where it says, "Hey, the Rabbi Yosi ben HaMeshulam." This Gemara here is discussing helping out an Amma Oretz. An Amma Oretz in Chazal is an individual that is not careful with impurity, with Tumah, and also an individual that's not careful with his Maisris. So over here it's going to discuss helping out this Amma Oretz with his food, whether there's a concern that his food is Tameh. So, hey, Rabbi Yosi ben HaMeshulam Mishum Rabbi Yochanan Achiv. Rabbi Yosi ben HaMeshulam testified the following halacha in the name of his brother, Rabbi Yochanan. Sha'ama Mishum Rabbi Elazar ben Chisma. And he said this in the name of Rabbi Elazar ben Chisma, or some Agari say Rabbi Elazar Chisma. Ein oisin chalas ha'ma'aretz betara. If you have an ha'ma'aretz, and he has his dough, he already prepared his dough himself. And now he turns to his friend, which is not an ha'ma'aretz, he's a chaver. Chaver is an individual that is careful with tum and tara. And he asks him, could you separate the challah from my dough for me? He doesn't know the halacha, how much challah you have to separate, and he wants his friend, the chaver, which is, Rashi calls him a gabel. A gabel is a kneader. He's a kneader and he works with dough, and he says, you know the halacha, I want you to separate the challah from me. So you're not allowed to do that for the Amma Oretz Betara. And the reason is because what happens now? You have this challah, and you're going to give it to the kayin, and the kayin is going to see that who's the one that separated this challah? A chaver, a person that is careful. But really, the Amma Oretz is the one that prepared this whole dough. If the Amma Oretz prepared this dough, it very possibly was Tameh from before. And Amma Oretz is not careful with Tumah. So, and the kayin won't realize that this dough is Tameh. So the chaver should not separate this challah from the dough of the Amma Oretz. Avol, however, oisin isas chulov betara. If you are going to go and be the one to knead this entire dough from the beginning, you're getting the ingredients from the Amma Oretz. You get flour and water, and you mix it for him from the beginning. So that you're allowed to do, because you're taking care of it from the beginning. So you'll make sure that it'll be pure. And you'll separate the challah as well. Umanicha b'chfisa uba oiban chusa, and you place it into a kind of a kfisha oiban chusa, which is, Rashi says, kalim that are made from worn out flasks, maybe leather flasks or different kinds of flasks that you're using to place this challah in. And the reason why it's placed dafke in these kinds of kalim, which is unusual, the Gemara will soon explain why. And this is also kalim that are not mekabel tumah. You don't want it to go into something that it would be susceptible to tumah, because you're going to give it back now to the Amma Oretz. Now the Amma Oretz is going to take back this dough that you prepared for him, and you also separated the challah from him. Neitel eshteyem. The Amma Oretz can take both the dough and the challah in this flask that you gave him. You don't have to be concerned that the Amma Oretz will be metame'it. So the keli itself is not makabel tumah, and the Gemara will explain we're not concerned that he's going to touch the challah itself as well. This is the halacha regarding challah. Similar halacha regarding truma. Ve'ein noisin truma zeisov betara. If the Amma Oretz has olives that are sitting in a vat and they're already oozing with oil from the olive oil, so you're not allowed to go and separate the truma for him. So again, this is speaking about a friend of the Amma Oretz, which is a chaver, and here this is a person which is he presses olives, and he knows the halachis of separating the truma, and the Amma Oretz wants this person to go and help him separate the truma. You're not allowed to separate it for him, because the kayin is not going to realize that these olives are really tameh, came from an Amma Oretz. Aval oisin zeisim chulav betara. However, if you have olives, fresh olives that were just picked from the tree, and there's no oil oozing on it, it was never susceptible for any tumah, and this person is giving it over to this chaver to press it and take care of it from him and separate the truma, so you're doing it from the beginning before it was susceptible to tumah, so you're allowed. And then the noitel heimena kedei truma, this chaver separates the truma, what's necessary, umanicha bekelav shel chaver, and then he places, when he's done the job, he places everything into a vessel that belonged here to this chaver. The Amma Oretz comes to take back his zeisim and also the truma that was separated. Neitel eshteyim, he takes back his olives and the truma that's in it. And you don't have to be concerned that the Amma Oretz might touch the truma that was separated here that he gives him back. These are the two halachas that was taught. So the Gemara now explains, why were the Chachamim lenient about this? I mean, there is a concern over here when you give back the challah and the truma to the Amma Oretz that he could be metamid. So Chacham were lenient about this to allow the chaver to prepare this for this Amma Oretz. Why is this? Amar Rabbi Yechanan says the basis of the leniency is Mishum Kidei Chayav the Gabal or Mishum Kidei Chayav the Badal. This is for the parnasa of this Gabal, of this kneader, and also the parnasa of this Yid, this Chaver, which is a Badal, which presses olives. And this is his job, this is his parnasa. If he won't be able to do this job for the Amaratzim, so then he's going to lose a lot of his customers. So Chacham were makel that as long as he does it from the beginning and he places it in a proper keli, that we're not going to be concerned that this Amaretz will touch it and make it tummy. Says the Gemara, it seems like both of these halachas are the same halachas, just one is with the challah and one is with the olives. So we need to have both of these halachas taught that Chacham will lenient in both cases. V'yashmin and gabal, if it would only tell me the halacha regarding the kneader for the dough, the reason Chachamim were lenient with him is because he doesn't make much money. Kneading doughs is not a very high-paying job. So because he's poor, Chachamim were lenient with him that he could do this work for an Amaretz, so he should have money. Avo bado the nafesh agre, but a person that presses olives, that's a much better paying job. Say maybe Chachamim were not lenient for him to be allowed to do this with for Amaratzim. So therefore, I have to teach me that even here Chachamim were lenient. In the reverse, v'yashminan badad, if we would only say the halacha of the one that presses olives, I would say mishum delay shchiach lei. This is actually a job that's seasonal. It only comes up once a year when the olives ripen. So therefore, I would say that maybe because his parnasa comes around once a year, and if his customer is an Amaretz, if he's going to lose this customer, he's not going to have work until the next year. So maybe here Chachamim were lenient for him. Avol, Gabal, the Shchiach lei, but Gabal, even though it's a lower paying job, but to need challah, to need dough, that's something that comes around all the time. So maybe I would say, even if he'll lose the job of this Amaretz, he'll find someone else to do this work for. So maybe Chacham were not lenient here. Tzriche, that's why it tells me in this case as well that Chacham were lenient. Okay, so now the Gemara here will explain better why are we not concerned that this Amaretz will touch this challah that you give him back. You give it back to him in this worn out flask. But the question is, this challah inside, he might touch the challah itself and make it tummy and then give it to the kohen. Oh, mamar, no yutul so the chaver will separate the challah, umanicha bekvisho oiban chusa, and he places it into this worn out flask, and then kushabo amaretz lita. The amaretz takes back this dough. He takes back takes back his dough and the challah as well. Ve'en chayshish, you're not concerned that he's going to make the challah tummy. Frek the Gemara, why not? V'leichish dilma nagaba. Shouldn't we be concerned that the Amaretz may touch this challah? So the Gemara answers there's an additional detail that wasn't mentioned before. You have to intimidate this Amaretz that he should not touch the challah. We tell the Amaretz, Chazi, look, inagas ba. If you're going to touch this challah, hadra letivla. What's going to happen is the whole dough will become tevel again. It'll be asa to eat. You'll have to separate the challah again. Now Rashi says the reason why we say this to him is because eating tevel, you chayiv misa for. So our assumption is that this will scare him not to touch the challah. But the Gemara asks, how do you know this will scare him? Shouldn't we be concerned that he doesn't care? He doesn't care to eat from his dough, even if it'll be tevel again. It's going to be considered like the challah wasn't separated. He might still touch it and make it tummy. Answers the Gemara, no, we're not concerned about this because and we see that this Amaretz is interested in rectifying, meaning he came and asked this kneader, which is a chaver, would you please separate the challah from me? So we see he wants to separate the challah. So again, and he wants to separate the challah. So you're saying that we should be concerned that he doesn't care about what happens here? If you're going to tell him that it'll be tevel again, he won't be concerned about this. He will be concerned. So therefore, this is enough to stop him that he will not want to touch the challah, and therefore we're not chayshish. Omamar, now going to the second half of the statement regarding the olives and the truma. So what was said was, noitul heimena kedei truma, so the chaver can separate the truma, umanicha bekelev shel chaver, and then when you've done your job, put the olives and the truma as well, all in the kelim of this chaver. The Amaretz now comes and takes back his olives together with the truma. And we're not concerned that the Amaretz will touch the truma. Why wouldn't we be concerned that the Amaretz will touch this truma? Now here the Gemara adds another detail which was not pointed out before to explain why by the case of challah we're not concerned that the Amaretz will touch it. It's understood by the challah. Islay Hakeda. There is something that we're doing to make a recognition here that the Ama'aretz should recognize that he's not allowed to touch this. What's the heker? The heker is the fact that you give it back to him in this kfisha oyanchusa, which is not the regular keli where this challah is placed. You put it out and you put it into this worn out flask. So this reminds the Ama'aretz that he's not allowed to touch it. Okay, and also in addition to what the Gemara said before, that we didn't intimidate him, we tell him that it'll become tevel again. But hacha over here, maya keda islay, when you're giving him back the olives with the trumeh, it didn't mention in the braisa or in the lashon. It's not a braisa in the lashon that was brought before that it's put in some unusual keli that he should remember not to touch it. So what recognition, what reminder will he have? So the Gemara answers, over here as well, there's a reminder. The manachle, you do put it in an unusual vessel. You put it bekli glolim, in kalim made out of dung, or bekli avonim, stone vessel, or bekli adama, in a kalim that are made out of earth, which is not the usual keli where you store dough in it. So therefore, this will be a reminder for him. Again, what? Again? Okay, could be. Second. So what's unique also about these kalim is, as Rashi here brings, these are kalim that are not mekabel tumah. Okay, so number one, they're not mekabel tumah. So if the Ama'aretz is taking back these kalim, he's touching these kalim, they're not mekabel tumah. But it's also unusual kalim, which will remind him not to touch it. Now, if so, what did we say before? My area the chaver. Before it says that you have to give him back these olives in the vessel of the chaver, in your vessel. But afilu da'amaretz nami, even if you're giving it back to him in his vessel, as long as it's these vessels that we just mentioned here, it should be fine. Why does it say in the vessel of the chaver? So the Gemara answers, hacha nami kama. That's really what it meant to say. The kalim shel ha'amaretz, you can give it to him in his vessel, in the vessel of the ha'amaretz, but ha'aruyin lehistamish behen chaver. But these are vessels that are fit for the chaver to use because they're vessels that are not makabel tumah, and therefore a chaver uses these kinds of vessels if he wants to be careful not to be metamet. But it doesn't literally mean that it has to be in the vessel of the chaver. It can be in the vessel of the ha'amaretz. Okay, this is the conclusion of the Inyan b'negeh to helping out an ha'amaretz in his matters. The next thing that was brought up in the Mishnah, the Mishnah spoke about darkei shalom. So the Mishnah said, "Machzikin yedei akum b'shvius." You're allowed to assist a guy that's working in Shemitah, in the field, in Eretz Yisrael. So the Gemara asks him this, Machzikin? You're allowed to, the Gemara now understands, Machzikin means you're literally assisting him in working in the field in Shemitah. V'amar Rav Dime bar Shishna mishmei derav, ein oidrin im ha'akum b'shvius. If there's a guy that's working in Shemitah, you're not allowed to do work with him in the field. You're not allowed to hold together with him in the field during Shemitah. Another thing he said, ve'ein koiflin shalom lo'evik kachavim. Even though it said in the Mishnah, and this is not only a Shemitah, but you can greet a guy even with the term shalom, which is the Eibishter's name, but you're not supposed to greet a guy and say shalom twice to him. Okay, so we'll get back to that in a second. But right now the question over here is, how does it say in our Mishnah that you could assist a guy in working in a field of Shemitah? So the Gemara explains, Mishnah did not mean you're actually assisting him in the work. What it means to say is, all it meant to say is you're just encouraging him with words. You're telling him you're doing good work and so on. Rav Yehuda would say to someone that's working in the field, so he would say, be strong, you're doing doing a good job. That's the lashon Rashi brings. But you're not allowed to actually work with him. Rav Sheisha says a similar, another term, Amalu Ashrasa. He would say to them Ashrasa, also a term that means be strong, you're doing a good work. Okay, or it's like the lashon that we say today to someone that does something for you. You say Yasha Koyach, which means you're to strengthen his Koyach. Okay, then it said over here that Rav said Ve'en Koiflin Shalom Lo'evik Achavim. You're not allowed to say to a guy when you greet him, you're not allowed to say the term shalom twice, even if that was the custom. You greet someone, you say shalom, 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 or shalom, shalom. You're not allowed to greet a guy and say twice the Eibishter's name, shalom. So Rav Chizde maktim v'yav l'hu shloma. Rav Chizde, when he met a guy, he made sure to say shalom to them before. He didn't want to have to say shalom twice to them. So what happens if the guy greets you and he uses a double term greeting you, and you would have to return the greeting in the same way? You would have to also say shalom, shalom. So he made sure to greet them first, so he would only say once shalom. Rav Kahane amalei shloma lamar. Rav Kahane said to them, peace upon the master. So Rashi says the pshat over here is he was greeting the guy, and the guy thought that he's saying shalom lamar, to this guy, that he's greeting him as his master. But really, his kavanah was he was greeting his teacher. He wasn't greeting the guy b'chlal. He had a different kavanah altogether. So even if he would say a double shalom, it wouldn't be a problem. That's Rashi's pshat. Taisus over here disagrees because Taisus says you're not allowed to do that. Goynev das habrius. If you greet someone and you're not even really greeting him, you mean to greet someone else, and the person thinks you're greeting him, you're deceiving him. You're not allowed to do that. So therefore, he says it means that he would say Shalom Alamar. He would use a term to the master to avoid having to say twice Shalom. You would give him this honor by saying master, but you're not allowed to say twice Shalom to a guy. So this is now here the Gemara brings what it said in the Mishnah. The Mishnah said V'shayelim b'shloimam, that you're allowed to greet a guy with Eibish's name and say to him Shalom. So the Gemara asks on this, what is the chiddush of a Mishnah? Hashte achzuki machzikinon. When you see a guy working, so you're allowed to go and encourage him in his work that he's doing, even though it's something which is aser for Yidden in the time of Shemitah in Eretz Yisrael, but you're allowed to encourage him with his work. Shayelim b'shleimam mibaya. So regarding greeting a guy during the rest of the year, does the Mishnah have to say this? It seems to be obvious. Amar Rav Yeva, so Rav Yeva says, le'nitzracha el liyom edam. What the Mishnah is saying is, the chiddush is, even on a day of a holiday for goyim, on a day that are their holidays for their avodah zarah, you still are allowed to greet a guy with the term shalom. And the chiddush here is, you're not concerned that if a yid comes and greets a guy, that this will excite the guy, and he'll be happy with that you greeted him, and as a result, he may go and thank and serve as avodah zarah. So you're not concerned about this. And the Gemara here brings the source that Tanya will learn in Abraisa. You're not allowed to go into the house of a guy on the day of his holiday and v'yitin l'shalom, and there to greet him in his house, because then in his house where he has his avodah zarah, he may actually go, and because as a result of your greeting him, it'll bring him happiness and it'll serve avodah zarah. Matzeh b'shuk, if you encounter a guy in the marketplace, so there you are allowed to greet him with shalom, but you greet him with lightly and with a bent down head, meaning you don't have to greet him with excitement, because you then even in the street you'll excite him, but you greet him lightly. Rav Huna and Rav Chisda were sitting. So Geniva, an individual by the name of Geniva we had before in the Gemara, he was a Talmid Chacham, he passed by. So one tells his friend, let's get up for Geniva, the Ba'oryanhu, because he's a Talmid Chacham. So the other answers his friend and says, we should get up for Geniva, which is a Baal Machlekes. We had this in the Masechta before, that Geniva was fighting with Mar Ukve, which was the Av Bezdin. Right, in the end, he passed away because he was fighting with Mar Ukve. So he was a Talmid Chacham, but he was a Baal Machlekes. So he says, we're not going to get up for him. So while they're having a conversation, Geniva came to them. Amalahu Shlama Alaycho Malki, Shlama Alaycho Malki. So he greeted Rav Huna and Rav Chisda with a double greeting, and he greeted them as a king. He says, peace upon you, the king, peace upon you, the king. Amrulei, so they said to Geniva, Minalach the Rabbanan Ikri Melachim. What's your source that Chachamim, the sages, are referred to as kings? You're greeting us as kings? Amalahu, so he answered them, the Chsev, the Pasuk says, Bi Melachim Yimleichu. And this pasuk is talking about Torah. The ones that learn Torah are compared to kings. Amrulei, they asked him another question. How do you know when you greet a king, you greet him with a double lashon, you greet him twice as an honor, special honor for the king? Amalahu Gniva answered them, how do I know when I greet a king, you greet him double? Shenema, the pasuk says, V'ruach lavsha es hamasai, Roisha Shalishim, and the pasuk there continues and says that Amasai was greeting David HaMelech, and he greeted him, he said, David Imcha ben Yishai, Shalom, Shalom Lecha. So he greeted him twice with the word Shalom. So they greeted also the Chachamim here, Rav Huna and Rav Chisda, he greeted them twice with Shalom. So Amri Lei, they said to Geniva, Litamar Midi, why won't you make a bracha and taste something, eat? Amalahu, so he answered them, from this whole thing we see how this Geniva was really a Talmid Chacham. Hachi Yomer Rav Yudah Amar Rav. Rav Yudah said in the name of Rav, Asaloi la'adam sheyitim klum. A person is not allowed to eat for himself, not allowed to taste food for himself, until he first feeds his animals. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, V'nasati esav b'satcha levemtecha. First the pasuk says, I give you the grass for the animals, and v'hadar, only afterwards it says in the pasuk, V'achalta v'savata, that you eat and you're satisfied. So apparently he still had animals that he had to feed, so he didn't want to eat yet. Hadran halach hanizakin. This is the conclusion of Masechta Perek Hanizakin, the fifth Perek of Masechta Gittin. Okay, let's begin the sixth Perek of Masechta Gittin, Perek Haimer. So here, finally, after a very long break of a lot of blot, which was discussing many different things that Chachamim instituted, which was not related to Masechta Gittin really directly, here we come back to the halachis of Masechta Gittin. And in this Perek, we'll discuss primarily the halachas of shlichus, which really began in the beginning of Perek HaShileach, when a person sends the get with a shliach. So here this Mishnah will discuss, there's generally speaking, two types of shluchim for a get. A shliach lahilacha, which is a shliach that the husband sends to deliver a get for his wife, and a shliach lekabbalah, which is a shliach that the wife sends to go and receive the get for her. And the difference between them is the shliach lahilacha, the divorce does not take effect until the get is actually delivered to the woman, because he's just delivering it to her. But the shliach lekabbalah, which the wife appointed, as soon as the get comes into this shliach's hands, she's divorced. Okay, so the Mishnah will discuss these two kinds of shluchim. So Aimer, if the husband says to a person, Hiskabel get zel ishti, I want you to receive this get from my wife. Or he says to this person, Hailach get zel ishti, deliver this get for my wife. So if the husband wants to retract from this divorce, he can't. And the reason is because the divorce did not take effect yet, because he's sending a person to deliver the get to the wife, but she does not get divorced until she receives the get. And that includes the case where he said to this man, Hiskabel, you're going to receive it for my wife, because the husband does not have the power to appoint a shliach to receive it in the place of the wife, that she should be divorced right away. Because this is something which is a chayv, this is something which is a negative for the wife. And ein chavan la'adam ela midaita. He didn't ask his wife if she wants to receive the get, so only when she actually receives the get into her hands will she be divorced. But isha she'amra hiskabeli giti, if it's the wife that sent the shliach, and she tells the shliach, you're going to receive the get on my behalf. So now, as soon as that person receives the get, imrat salach zelayachser. If the husband wants to retract from this divorce, he can't, because that's it. The moment the get comes into his hand, she's divorced. Says the Mishnah regarding this case, lefichach, therefore, im amalaya bal, efshi shetekabala, if the husband, when he gives the get to this shliach that was appointed by the wife to receive it for her, but the husband clearly says, I don't want you to receive the get for her. I don't agree to this. Ella hoylech v'tenlo. I want you to deliver the get, and she should only be divorced when you give her the get. So then, even though the shliach was appointed as a shliach lekabbalah, but now the husband is saying, I don't want him to receive it for her, so he could retract the get until she receives the get into her hands. Rab Shimon ben Gamliel says regarding this shliach that's appointed by a wife to receive the get on her behalf, afa imeres toili giti. If the wife said to this shliach, you should take the get from me, she didn't use the term used before, hiskabel. Hiskabel means you're receiving it on my behalf, so that's clear that she'll be divorced as soon as the shliach receives the get. Even if he says, take it from me, imrat zalach salayachsa. The husband, the moment the shliach takes the get, he can't retract from this, and the reason is because toil is equivalent to receiving, and therefore she's already divorced.
Wait, what's similar to receiving?
Toil, take the get is similar to the term of hiskabel, to receive it. Okay. The Gemara here will now discuss something that came up earlier in the Masechta, which is a discussion, a machlokes regarding hailech kizachi or hailech lav kizachi. When a person sends a document over there, was talking about an eved, when you wanted to free an eved, and you give it to a shliach, and the master gave it to the shliach, and he says, here, deliver this get to the eved. Do I say that when a person says hailech, it's equivalent to saying you're being zeiche in it for this eved or not? He says deliver it, but not until the eved receives this document were you zeiche in it for him. That was a machlokes before in the Masechta. So here the Gemara will try to prove that machlokes from what it says here in our Mishnah. So what can we learn out from our Mishnah? Going to the first case of our Mishnah, when the husband is appointing a shliach and he either tells the shliach hiskabel, receive the get for my wife, or he says here, deliver the get for my wife. So taime the loisha visei ihi shliach lekabbalah. The reason why she will not be divorced until she receives the get is because the husband is appointing the shliach. She didn't appoint the shliach to receive the get for her. So therefore, as I mentioned in the Mishnah, the halacha is you can't the husband does not have the ability to appoint the shliach to receive the get for the wife, because this is a chayv for her. This is something which is negative for her. Only if she would agree that this person should receive it on her behalf, can he receive it even before she gets it into her hands, and she'll be megareshes right away. But over here, when the husband is appointing this shliach, and she did not say that he could receive it for her, so therefore she won't be divorced yet. But what if she also appointed this shliach that he should receive it for her? So then what's going to be the halacha? The Mishnah says, Ratzalachzer, Lo yachzor. So then from the Mishnah we should learn out, it should come out from our Mishnah, that if the husband wants to retract from this divorce, he can't retract from it. Because when you say hailech, it's as if the husband is saying you should be zeiche in it right away, and therefore you can't retract from this. Right, so Rashi Avir explains, the Mefarshim Avir explain that you see from the first case of our Mishnah, when it says in the Mishnah, his skabel gets ele ishti, that the husband says, here, receive this get from my wife, and the Mishnah says that the husband can't retract from this. Why can't the husband retract from this? The wife should be divorced right away. He said, his skabel, receive it from my wife. It must be, the reason is because this is not a shliach lekabbalah. The wife did not send this shliach to receive the get, so she's not divorced right away. So the same thing also regarding the next case that the Mishnah says. Hailech. When the husband says hailech, the reason why the Mishnah says that the husband could retract is because the shliach is not a shliach lekabbalah. But if the shliach was a shliach lekabbalah and the husband used the term hailech, it doesn't matter. Hailech means kizachi. Hailech means that as soon as you get the get, he's zayche in it and you can't retract from this. So from here we can see Shema Mina Hailech Kazachi Dami. We can learn from our Mishnah that when a husband tells a shliach you should deliver the get, the husband means to say you should be zeiche in it right away for the wife, as long as the wife agreed, as long as the wife sent them as a shliach lekabbalah. The husband, when he says Hailech, it also means Kazachi Dami. So this is a raya to this opinion that was brought earlier in the Masechta. So the Mefarshim over here point out another detail. The case over here is that the shliach, when he comes to the husband, he doesn't tell the husband befedish that your wife told me to receive the get for her. If the shliach is telling that befedish to the husband, so then it makes sense to say that when the husband says to him, Hailech, deliver the get to her, that he meant to say that he should be zeiche in it right away, because the shliach just told the husband that your wife wants me to be zeiche in it for her. What we're talking about over here is the wife told the shliach, be zeiche in the get for me. But the shliach did not share that information with the husband. The shliach is just coming to the husband, and the husband is saying to the wife, Hailech. And in such a case, we understand from our Mishnah that the shliach is zeiche in it right away. And the reason is because the term Hailech, when the husband says Hailech, deliver the get, he means that the shliach should be zeiche in it. The only reason our Mishnah says that the shliach is not zeiche in it right away is because it's a chayv. In a case where he was not appointed by the isha, so then it's a chayv. But if you don't have that issue of chayv, then Hailech is kazachi. So the Gemara answers, no, you can't be medayik this from our Mishnah. Really, this shliach that's picking up the get from the husband, it doesn't make a difference if he was appointed by the wife, if he was not appointed by the wife. Either way, the halacha would be the same. When the husband tells him, go, deliver the get, he doesn't mean to say you should be zeiche in it for the wife right away. So then why did our Mishnah only say the halacha in a case where the shliach was not appointed by the isha? V'hiskabel get leishti itztrichalei. Because the Mishnah wants to say the chiddush regarding the first case, when the husband tells his wife, the shliach that is, when the husband tells the shliach, hiskabel get leishti, receive the get for my wife. What's the chiddush over here? I would think to say, Hoyel ubal lav barshav yishliach lekabbalahu. A husband does not have the ability to appoint a shliach to receive the get on his wife's behalf. He can say to the shliach, deliver the get, but he can't appoint the shliach to receive it on his wife's behalf. So afagav the mata git liyad. So maybe I would think when the husband uses this term, he says his skabel, you should receive the get on my wife's behalf. Maybe the whole shlichus is not a shlichus. He made a mistake. He's using a terminology that's not good. Kamash malon. So therefore the Mishnah is coming to say the hiskabel v'hailech ka'amar. When the husband says the term hiskabel, what did he mean to say? He meant to say take the get and deliver the get. So this over here, the Mishnah is saying this chiddush dafka regarding a case where the shliach was not appointed by the isha. If this shliach was already appointed by the isha, so then it's understood that the husband could say hiskabel, receive the get on her behalf. What our Mishnah is saying is, b'negayat to a shliach that was not appointed by the isha, that the husband is able to give the get to the isha, and he tells her hiskabel. What does hiskabel mean? That you should deliver it to the wife. That's why the Mishnah is talking about such a case regarding the chiddush of the reisha. Now the Gemara goes to the next case of the Mishnah. What did it say in the Mishnah? Tanan ha'isha sha'amra hiskabel li giti. A wife that appoints a shliach and says, you're going to receive the get on my behalf. So im ratza lachzer lo yachzer. The moment the shliach gets the get, she's divorced and the husband can't retract from this. Says the Gemara, what case are we talking about here? What did the husband say to the shliach? My love, don't you think, loishno akabale, loishno ahayloche, that this case is going on both scenarios mentioned in the reisha of the Mishnah. Whether the husband told the shliach, receive the get on my wife's behalf, or whether the husband told the shliach, haylech, that you should deliver the get to my wife. So what do you see from here? That even if the husband says to the shliach, deliver the get, what's the halacha? That the shliach is zeicha in the get right away. So from here you see that haylech is kazachi. The moment the husband says that you should take the get, he really meant that you should be zeicha in it right away. That's what it's saying here in this part of the Mishnah. As long as the shliach was appointed already by the isha to receive the get, and now the husband says haylech. What does haylech mean? You should be zeicha in it right away, and the husband can't retract from this. So the Gemara says, not necessarily is this case going on both of the cases that it said in the Reisha. A Kabbalah. It's over here, this case of the Mishnah is only speaking about the husband said to the shliach, receive the get on the wife's behalf. He didn't say haylech. If he would have said haylech, then the shliach would not have been zeicha in it right away. The Gemara goes to the next part of the Mishnah. Tashema, what did it say here in the Mishnah? Lefichach, in this case, where you have a shliach that was appointed by the isha, and the moment the shliach receives the get, the isha is divorced. So the Mishnah said, Lefichach, therefore, amalei abal efshi shetekabala. So if the husband does say to the shliach clearly, I don't want you to receive it on her behalf. I want you to go and deliver it and give it to her. So then, so the Mishnah said, but the husband specified so clearly that he doesn't want the divorce yet to take effect, so until she receives the get, he can retract from this. So the Gemara explains, what do I see from our Mishnah? Time amar efshi. Only because the husband said so clearly, efshi, I don't want you to be zeicha in it right away, so therefore I say she won't be divorced until she gets it. Ha loy amar efshi, but if the husband didn't specify clearly efshi, so then what would be the halacha? Im ratza lachzar lo yachzar. If he wants to retract from this get that he gave to this shliach, he can't. And that would include even if he clearly said to the shliach, haylech, deliver it. It's not enough that he says haylech, because in such a case, when he says haylech, shma mina, haylech kizachidami, just saying deliver the get to the wife, that would be equivalent to saying you could be zeicha in it now, right away for her, because he was already appointed as a shliach lekabbalah. What does the Mishnah say? He has to specify very clearly, I don't want you to be zeicha in it right away. Says the Gemara, not necessarily is it a raya, because maybe there's another girsa in our Mishnah. Dilme beheilach. Maybe what our Mishnah is saying is, if the husband said, heilach, here, take the get like she said. Not hoilech, but heilach. If he uses the term heilach, what does the term heilach mean? Heilach means, here, take it to her like she said. In such a case, he's going to have to specify very clearly that he doesn't want the shliach to be zeicha in it right away until he brings it to her. And he has to say, efshi. But in a case where he said, hoilech, maybe hoilech is clear enough that I want you to deliver it to her, and you should not be zeicha in it until it comes to the isha. So therefore there's no raya here from our Mishnah. Again, regarding this whole machlekes, the term hoilech, when a husband says, here, deliver this get, what does hoilech mean? Does hoilech mean that deliver it, and until then there's no get? Or does hoilech mean, as soon as he gives it to her, it means, hoilech, deliver it, but you're really zeicha in it right away for her, as long as she also appointed him to be a shliach. So the Gemara is saying here, from none of the cases in our Mishnah do we have a raya to this discussion, to this machlekes. Now the Gemara brings up another thing that we could learn from our Mishnah. Pshita, so the Gemara first starts off with something which is obvious. The halacha is obvious that ish have a shliach la hilacha, that a man could be a shliach to deliver a get for someone's wife. Shekem baal melech get lishtay. Just like a husband, he's the one that gives the get to his wife. So too, any zachar, any other man could also give a get to the wife. The isha, same thing. We also on the opposite regarding receiving the get. Isha avishliach lekabbalah. A woman could be a shliach to receive a get for someone's wife. Shekain isha mekabelas gittin miyad bailo. Just like it's the woman that receives her get, so too any woman can be appointed to be a shliach as well. But the question is, ish lekabala. Can a man be can he be appointed as a shliach to receive a get for a woman, or the isha lahaylacha? Could a woman be appointed to be a shliach to deliver a get to someone's wife? What's the halacha? Right? Since usually it's the husband, the zachar, only a husband sends a get, and it's the wife, and a keva, she's the one that receives the get. So when it comes to the shliach of the husband or the shliach of the wife, could I have a isha be the shliach of the man, or could I have a ish be a shliach of the woman? Taisus over here adds to this that it's based on something that we learned earlier in the Masechta, that when it comes to shlichus, we usually have a halacha that if you're not b'toiras that halacha, if you're not shaykh to that halacha, you can't be a shliach for it. So giving the get, only the man could give a get. So maybe only a man could deliver a get. A woman doesn't give a get. And same thing regarding receiving a get. Only a woman could receive a get. So maybe only a woman could be a shliach for a get. So the Gemara here will prove this from our Mishnah. So what does it say in our Mishnah? Tashema, the Mishnah said, Ha'emes kabel gets el ishti. A man says, go and receive this get for my wife, deliver this get for my wife. He can retract from this because she's not divorced until she receives it. And then the next case the Mishnah said, Ha'isha she'amra eskabeli giti. If it's the wife that says that I want you to receive the get from me, so because she appointed him, so imratza lachza lo yachzer. So now the husband can't retract because the moment the shliach gets the get, she's divorced. So we have here two cases in the Mishnah: the case where the husband is appointing the shliach, and the case where the wife is appointing the shliach. My lav b'chat shliach. Don't you think that the Mishnah here in both of these cases is talking about the same person, the same shliach for the husband and for the wife? And if so, b'shma mino kosher lekabale, kosher lo'ilocha. The same person could be a shliach both to receive the get for the wife and to deliver the get for the husband. Meaning it's either a man that's doing this shlichus for the husband or for the wife, or it's a woman that's doing this shlichus for the woman or for the husband. So I see that the same person could be a shliach for both of them. Says the Gemara Light, that's not necessarily the pshat in the Mishnah. B'shnei shluchin. It's two different cases, and it's two different shluchim. In the Reish of the Mishnah, keep talking about just a man, which is a shliach for the husband, and the Sefer, the next case, is talking about just a woman, which is a shliach for the wife. But the Gemara goes on to the next case of the Mishnah, Toshema. What did it say in the Mishnah regarding a case where the wife sent a shliach? So that the Mishnah said, Lefichach im amalei abal. If the Baal says to this shliach that the wife sent, I don't want you to be her shliach, to receive it on her behalf. You're going to be my shliach to deliver it to her. So then, if the husband wants, he can retract from this get. Now, we're talking here about the same shliach that the wife appointed, and the husband is saying, I don't want you to be her shliach, I want you to be my shliach. So Shema Mino, it's very clear. You see in our Mishnah that kosher lekabala, kosher lo'ilocha. The same shliach that's being sent by the wife could be a shliach also from the husband. Okay, so now the Gemara says we had two shaylas before. We had a shayla whether a isha could be a shliach of the husband, and we had also the shayla whether a ish, a man, could be a shliach of the wife. So over here we know that we're talking about one shliach that's the shliach of the wife and of the husband. Says the Gemara, pshait mina. So what you could at least resolve from here is that ish have a shliach lekabala. That the one man, that the one shliach that our Mishnah was speaking about, that was a shliach for both the husband and the wife, we're talking about a man. And that this man could be the shliach to receive the get on the wife's behalf. Why? The shliach, to be a shliach on the wife's behalf, where do we find that a man could ever receive a get? So the Gemara says, this is not such a big chiddush. Shekein av mekabel get lebitay ketana. There is a scenario where a man receives a get, and that is a father that receives a get for his daughter, which is a ketana. A father has the right to marry off his daughter as a ketana, and then if she gets divorced, it's the father that receives the get on her behalf. So therefore, we could say that our Mishnah proves that a man could be a shliach for the wife to receive a get on her behalf, because we find this concept that a man receives a get. But the question still is, isha lohilacha tiboylach. Could a woman be a shliach to deliver a get for a husband? So, what's the halacha? So Amar Rav Mari says this is also something that we can clearly learn out from a Mishnah that we had earlier in the Masechta. So Tashema, the Mishnah said, Af hanoshim she'eina manis leima meiz baila. Certain women are not believed to say testimony that a certain woman's husband passed away. because there's a certain hatred between them and they're not trusted for this. But nevertheless, the Mishnah says, they are believed to bring her get for her. And they deliver her get for her, and they then have to testify, they're believed for this. Now, there it's talking about a woman that is appointed by the husband to deliver the get. So we clearly see there that a woman could be appointed by the husband to deliver the get. Rav Ashi says, we see the same thing also from the end of that Mishnah. The Ktani Seifa, there in the end of that Mishnah, it says, a woman could bring her own get from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael. But when she delivers her own get, just as the halacha we learned in the beginning of the Masechta, when you bring a get from Medina Sayyam, from Chutz La'aretz, you have to testify about the get being kosher. So you have to testify that it was written and signed in front of you. A woman bringing her own get will also have to testify this. Now, we explained before that this is talking about a woman that's not divorced yet. She didn't receive the get from her husband and divorced immediately, but rather her husband said to her that you will now be a shliach to deliver the get to Eretz Yisrael, to the Bezdin, and only when you come to Eretz Yisrael will you be divorced. So here we're talking again about a isha that's being appointed by the husband to deliver the get. So Shema Mina, we clearly see from here as well that a isha could be appointed to deliver a get for herself.